Okay, it's recording. Go ahead.
Okay. Call to order. I forget how to do this. Call to order. Notice is hereby given that the City of Sandy Oaks Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a meeting on Thursday, March 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. by telephonic and video conferencing, which will be live streamed and accessible to the public for the purpose of considering the agenda items as provided below. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, and in an effort to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face interactions to slow the spread of the COVID-19, the commission will meet by and provide live stream video and or telephonic access of the meeting to the public. The public may participate in this meeting by using the links provided in the agenda posted on the city website. The public will be permitted to offer public comments telephonically or audio as provided below and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. Persons wishing to speak during citizens to be heard should sign up by email as provided at least 2 hours before the meeting. Do we have any citizens to be heard? Or no, sorry. 6:51, call to order.
Before, I don't think you said the time.
6:51. I just
Sure,
said
can
it.
you- Okay. Okay.
There's a lot of feedback on here. So I'm wondering if that's maybe why. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here now.
Okay. Mickey, can you do a roll call?
I can. Hold on just 1 second.
Sorry, I forgot to do that.
Okay, so Commissioner Hadley,
I'm here.
Commissioner Bradshaw,
Oops,
Oh,
there it went.
I lost the audio on that.
Commissioner Bradshaw, are you present?
Yes, I'm present.
Commissioner Portman
Here.
and Commissioner Thomasini.
Here,
We also have City Attorney, Ms. Ortiz, and myself. You do have a quorum.
okay. Thank you. Do we have any citizens to be heard on your end? I didn't get any on mine.
I'm not aware of any now.
Okay, so we'll move to agenda item number 3, consideration and approval of minutes from May 21st, 2020, June 27th, 2020, November 19th, 2020, and January 29th, 2021. However, I don't believe Mr. Orduno is present. So, and I don't think you have anything and none of the other commissions have anything.
Not that I'm
Have any-
aware of.
What'd you say, Mr. Thomasini?
what do you mean have anything? I'm not sure what you mean.
I didn't know if he passed them off to you or anybody
Oh,
else.
no.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda number 4, item number 4. Workshop to discuss proposed comprehensive zoning ordinance draft for the city of Sandy Oaks and or take possible action on the proposed comprehensive zoning ordinance draft. So I think didn't we end on zoning district boundaries? And I think the last we spoke, Mr. Thomasini had something he wanted to ask. I don't know if he asked that to you, Mickey.
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. Mr. Thomasini?
Sorry, I muted him. I'm going to ask him. I'm asking him to unmute. There was a lot of background noise. I wasn't sure where it was coming from.
The questions I had were about the terms, but I've been able to figure those out or get somebody to help me with them.
The terms for what?
Well, some of the legals, the
Oh, gotcha.
wording and stuff in there.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha. I guess, do you remember where exactly we left off, Mickey?
I thought we finished section 1 and we're moving on to section 2.
Well, I think we were on 4. That's where I
Oh.
have it here. Well, do you have the paper, the document that you saved?
I'm looking for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Bear with me a moment. Planning and zoning, here we go. And Commissioner Thomasini, I sent you a chat message. I need some feedback from you, please.
How do I do that?
There should be a chat button
Down
somewhere.
at,
I saw it. I just didn't know how to respond.
Oh, just
You
type
should be
in
able
the area there.
just
Yeah,
click on it.
I click on chat. Oh, okay. I see what's on the side. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So if you could reply to me, I want to make sure I have the right numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so let me get back over here to this. Share screen. Right here. Share. Okay. I think that's the one I used, but that's the one I'll make sure is on here. Thank you, Thomasini. Okay. All right, is that what you're looking for, Melissa?
Yes, ma'am.
Which section?
I have it turned to section 4.
Section 4, right
Ye-
here.
Do the
Okay.
commissioners have something different? I think we were in section 4. Okay. Going line by line, I guess. The zoning district boundary lines. I guess Joe, I'm hoping Joe can hear me. The zoning district boundary lines shown on the zoning district map are usually along streets, alleys, property lines, or extensions thereof. Where uncertainty exists as to the boundaries of districts as shown on the zoning map, the zoning district map, the following rules shall apply. I think we went over those. I think all that was pretty standard. I'm sitting here trying to scroll. Mickey, can you scroll down a little?
I can. Hold on just a minute. I have a lot of screens going on here. I want to make sure I get to the right one. Right here. Nope, that's the agenda. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Download. Here we go. Okay. Where do you want me to go?
I guess just keep going in boundaries. I'm not gonna read each line. If you guys, right there is fine.
Okay.
Street or alley, public way. Ms. Ortiz, I'm assuming all of this is basic. Nothing is, I mean. Nothing is.
Part, yeah, everything is pretty standard. I don't think anything where the city would have to change things because of anything unique.
Okay. Variance. There arises the question as to how whether parcel property zones can be resolved by the application of such. Does anybody have any questions on 7 through 9 or anything above?
Talk about
No.
4?
Number 4?
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. Boundaries, okay. We can go down, I guess, to, yeah. All land building, okay, section 5, compliance required in application of regulations. All land building structures improvements. They're on located.
And so I do see a blank in section A,
Yeah,
or yeah, section A of paragraph A of section 5.
I used. Where did-
And that blank may need to be filled in at the very And since it's cross-referencing, I mean, depending on where that penalty section would go in the ordinance.
Okay,
With the final ordinance. But
Okay,
maybe just highlight it so we don't
forget.
miss it in the future.
Designations prescribed. There it is, the minimum required unless explicitly stated otherwise.
I could swear we went through this one.
I don't know.
Yeah, we went through section 5.
After erected is not in conformance.
that's true. I do remember that, yeah.
Zoning upon annexation. So where, do you remember where we left off?
That was basically boilerplate except for filling in the section number. So we covered that.
Like, we don't have any notes on it. That's why I assumed we hadn't.
And this copy is not any note section at all. This is the
We did-
original draft.
We did discuss section B.
So what, Nikki, do you have the one that we have the notes on?
I do not recall. Let me check something here and let's see. When was our last meeting? Do you recall?
January.
January? That long ago?
Yeah, because we missed one. We missed 2, actually, I believe.
Yeah, we didn't have a quorum on the last
we go.
one. And the one before that, the meeting was canceled. Or
Okay,
vice versa.
so here we go. COOs
Oh my
and site
goodness.
plans, part 2 of 2,
I like that.
part 1 of 2. Okay, so let me open this one and see what it says. That one has no notes on it. Okay, so let me go to the next one.
And I guess once you do that, you can send it to me. And then I can have it, I'll have it in a folder on my desktop. Nah, I can do it next time. That way you don't have to.
No,
We got
this is a different one altogether. I think the consensus from the first one was, as Joe mentioned, it was all pretty much boilerplate. I don't know that we changed anything, did we?
We had some notes in there.
And we had some clarifications that people
Yeah.
wanted.
I do
Basi-
not have that.
Well, let's just skip down until we find unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, and then if we need to go back in that first section, we can do that when we have the consulting firm or consultant.
Okay,
You over here.
Okay, so yeah, section A was just establishing that
This is a practical fine. And no event more than 100 or 120 to city council.
so basically, if we did an annexation within 120 days, that the city council would through the city administrator initiate proceedings to establish zoning classification A, which I guess is the lowest one, right?
agricultural, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, then let's bring section B up a little more. City council elect to zone newly annexed territory other than A. That was pretty obvious. Blah blah blah. As long as it was, appropriate and not going to be causing issues with adjacent property or the public health, safety, and welfare.
Shows the land parcel, whether it's in the nature by initiation of land owner, initiative of the city.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we actually went down through those 4.
I wanted to say we got all the way through Article 1. on the last meeting. and then
That sounds
decided-
about right. We decided we were
Yeah.
gonna go into Article 2. We did start on this section with looking at the non-conforming,
I think I remember that.
yeah, or at least maybe I just skimmed through it and we chatted on it for a moment. So
Hereby declare.
I think this is a pretty good spot. So basically, this is the grandfathering of existing stuff.
Established by this ordinance or amendments thereto.
The intent that to permit it to continue to be used as long as the conditions within the section of the concessions of the ordinance are met. That's kind of open-ended because you can put conflicting sections in the ordinance.
You can put conflicting what?
You can, well, plenty of laws are written with conflicting clauses. The ordinances are no different, you know. You can't have a building taller than 30 feet. All buildings must be at least 30 feet tall.
Gotcha.
That's actual example from New York Building Code in the 1800s.
That's odd. Weird.
It's illegal to own a frog on a Saturday.
Yeah. Some of those kind of.
There's plenty of weird laws out there. Yeah. So, but basically the principle of containment is that when you create a clause, you want to limit the amount of other clauses that you reference. A clause should stand on its own. In other words, if I were the legal person writing this, and I'm not, I would strike "and other applicable sections of the ordinance are met."
And which section are you referring to?
Section 7A1, last sentence.
Okay.
Intent of the ordinance to permit such non-conforming uses to continue as long as the conditions within this section
Are met.
are met.
Now, the reason
Oh.
that
Yeah, I was
do
gonna say,
that
tell
is
me
one-
why you think.
is you want to make the clause stand on its own. In other words, the simplest, when you get into a legal battle, the simplest reading of the sentence is the one that will prevail. Okay. So in the other applicable sections might not even be enforceable as written. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just
But
saying
we
that.
have one on the call.
Okay, so
I'm scanning through here just to see
simplicity
what
is
the other
best.
sections are.
See, that's the deal. It's an open-ended reference.
Is he correct, Ms. Ortiz?
Yeah,
It can, I mean, I don't
Partially.
see any harm with striking the remainder of that section, just to make it clear the section that does apply, or that it's that section alone that applies. That type of language is often put in like as a catch-all, just to, I guess, reference any other part of the ordinance that that the non-conforming use in this example would have to comply with. So it's basically saying the non-conforming use is allowed if it's allowed by this section. So if you strike that as
I gotcha.
I think it would be okay to stand on its own. It's really just a catch-all. But I think it can stand on its own without that last part of the sentence.
Maybe
Well,
strike and then ask
long as the
the
conditions
ask
within
the
the section
consultant, ask
are
the
met.
consultant when we
Mhm.
That, or if there are particular sections that can be referenced, we can reference those particular sections.
Well, that it typically for they would reference the actual sections and not say, and the catch-all is kind of I'm not going to say the a lazy way to do it, but it's a sloppy way to do it. If you're gonna reference other sections, they should be referenced, by
Gotcha. Directly.
direct. Yeah,
Okay,
It does leave it more open.
like I said, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, but it would make it clear to everyone if, both the city and anyone trying to comply with the ordinance, if either particular sections are referenced themselves, or you can strike that and the non-conforming use can't be granted unless they meet, it's on its own, they meet every requirement of a non-conforming use,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
So the non-conforming use requirements that are stated in paragraph 1 are legal uses of land, structures, et cetera, that were in existence and operating before the ordinance was enacted. In other words, grandfathered.
Yeah.
But so that's a pretty obvious phrase, pretty easy to understand. So
okay.
I don't have a problem with it either way. I just think it's
Less is more sometimes.
Yeah.
It is further the intent of this ordinance. It shall not be enlarged upon this man.
Number 2 sounds good to me.
so. Just to clarify, number 2, a person has a non-conforming structure for whatever reason. Say that particular section of the zoning says that you have to have brick houses, but this is a wood house that was built before. And this has nothing to do with Sandy Oaks. It's just a generalized example. Okay, so that means that he can't remodel it or build another wood add-on onto it. Is that what I'm getting here?
I'm reading that they could not add on at all, regardless of
couldn't add
the
on.
material.
However, the word altered becomes kind of a sticking point, because what if they do internal renovation?
Mm.
So, I mean,
Are we
it's just-
really and I'm serious, are we really trying to, I don't know, this seems a bit for
It
our,
seems-
you want to cover all your bases, but you don't want to be draconian. So
you don't
Right.
want to what?
you don't want to be draconian. You don't want to be,
Yes.
the hall monitor.
And that's what I feel like.
That's what it feels like it is, though.
Yes.
You're telling
yeah,
somebody they can't do anything to their home.
Well,
pretty much.
you got me.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that whole little section right there.
Well, let's throw a real life example out there. So we have a property that is currently being occupied by travel trailers. That is a non-conforming use.
Mhm.
So
But
we should not allow them to add a porch or, a cover over the existing travel trailer. I think that's
And
kind
that
of how I'm reading this.
that makes sense on that, but we already have the ordinance or whatever it is that there's no travel trailers. That's not how I'm reading that. Makes sense?
But I understand it as an example. So
It would be like me.
most permissive case, your trailers can stay, but you can't have another trailer. Okay. The most permissive case. Okay. Least permissive case, your trailers can stay, but you can't paint them, you can't fix them, you can't do anything to them. If they get a flat, you can't touch them. So you can go from most restrictive to least restrictive. Okay. Now that's a tough example because people live there.
Right.
So there's a lot of feedback, I think, from your phone. Are you touching your phone or your iPad?
I'm holding it.
Maybe the speaker. I think that might be why.
Well, and the other thing is, in this particular case, and Joe brought up, let's say that the guidelines were that they had to be brick structures. This particular one is a wooden structure. They should be able to alter it to
Yes.
add a brick exterior if that would bring them into conforming use. So
Well, Yeah, that's what we call forward code compliance. So in other words, you remodel it to bring it up to code or into compliance.
Let
So
me
it's
throw
not-
another, let's throw a real life example.
Okay,
Like real life. Okay. So most of these houses are mobile homes. I have a mobile home.
yep.
I want to put an add-on. Is that going to restrict me from putting an add-on? In a sense, or I'm not sure, Mr. Thomasine, maybe he has other ideas, or Mr. Bradshaw, does that kind of make sense? Like, is that going to restrict me from repaneling it, or, putting different paneling on it, or adding an add-on in the back or the front, or whatever it is that like, I feel like that's what that's telling me that I can't do.
And I think from the ordinance that you're referencing specific to mobile home that we have in place elsewhere, that only, there's nothing in that ordinance that I recall that says you cannot, that you couldn't do that. As
Yeah.
long as, the only time that ordinance came into play was from a replacement standpoint. So if there was never a unit there, or you're replacing an existing unit, then the stipulations in that ordinance would then apply. So as far as altering, I mean, if it's a mobile home, it's been there for a while, it's pretty much grandfathered from the previous section that we were looking at. And I guess altering it, maybe altering it needs to be further defined. Is that an exterior alter? Is that a,
Well, it also says expanded or extended.
right?
So technically, I don't have a house that it's non-conforming because it's not within what the 10 years or 5 years, I can't remember what it is.
Right, right.
So technically, I wouldn't be able to add on, I wouldn't be able to alter it, I wouldn't be able to extend it or whatever it is, because even though it's already grandfathered in, but it's still non-conforming. Am I reading that correctly? Are you guys reading it the same way or understanding it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's what
in section 1, it says, it is the intent of this ordinance to permit such non-conforming uses to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but you can't, well, I don't know. It's, I don't know, maybe the consultant can explain it to us a little bit better, but it just sounds to me like it keeps you from doing what you want to do just because you're non-conforming. I mean, but you weren't non-conforming before.
Yeah, it's there's a principle in here. Oh God,
Well,
I wish I'd paid more attention to the paper chase.
well, so here's one thing, and we'll kind of go back to ADA compliance as an example. So a building that I work in, the office area is 2 stories, but there's only stairs. There is no
Yeah, they can't go back in.
elevator, there is no escalator. So from a true ADA perspective, that building is not in compliance under today's code.
Yes.
However, until and unless there is a renovation of some type, and they base it, I want to say, on a dollar figure. I think it's
Yeah, they have a legal
$5,000 or
definition of a
more.
major or minor renovation.
Once that happens,
Yes,
then all of these changes apply. So as long as you're not, and I'm not quite sure how to turn that into terms that relate specifically to housing here, but
yeah.
that's
don't-
kind of where I think the line is drawn or should be drawn.
Mm,
But your house was compliant when it was put on the lot.
Exactly, but if you want to expand a non-compliant property or alter that
Oh.
property, and
Interesting.
yeah,
I don't think you can retroactively punish change the rules. I mean, it gets thorny. I mean,
Yeah, I really, am not confident, or I don't know the right word to say, especially because we're being recorded. I think this whole section right here needs to be put on the brakes big time. I think we need to talk to a consultant about that, because
The whole section 7?
I think, well, let's keep going, but like at least are you guys in agreement with me or not?
yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. Get some more eyes on it.
Yeah, because this is,
Because this is actually a very important thing to a lot of the people who live there. They're in
Yes.
older places.
well, I mean, like mine, I'm not gonna buy a new house. I'm not gonna go buy $150,000 house to put on here. I'm not gonna do
Right.
it. I would rather, spend 20,000 and add on. I'm not, but I would rather do that if I had to do that.
Is
Yeah,
the only out of compliance the age of the home?
I believe so, according to the ordinance we have in right now, right? I believe, right, Mickey?
Yes.
I know there's things about skirting and there's things about offsets and there's things about construction. What type of construction the mobile home has to be. I can't remember all of the CCRs. I
don't
read them
remember.
thoroughly when I bought my lot.
It had to do with the age.
Yeah, it's just the age on it.
The age
Yeah.
is the big one.
Yeah.
So,
So I've just
that's like
tagged
saying
this
to a
entire
guy-
section here.
you can park your
Um,
car in that garage, but you can't change the tire on it because it's too old.
Yes. That's basically more or less, or you can't change the engine out, sort of thing.
So,
Okay, so I'm marking that entire section to save for the consultant.
now for items that are completely non-conforming, such as the trailers, it's a whole lot easier to determine what to do.
Yes, I agree with that. Like that's just, we don't do that here, or that's not, that's our ordinance, or in our ordinance, that we're not, no trailers.
Right.
So-
But if you bought a home that was, 4 years and 11 months old and moved it onto your property, you're technically in compliance, but 30 days later, you're not.
Yes,
That seems kind of nonsensical.
yes,
Hit him a few times, and when I hit him, he barked.
yep. Okay, so we're going to,
Can I just clarify that section to what it doesn't mean that you, like, if you have a mobile home or anything, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to do anything else to your home. Or it just means that if it's not allowed, say it's a residential property and it wasn't residential before, you conform to the residential use, you can do things to your home that are allowed in other residential uses.
That makes
So just
That makes-
because you can't just do anything you want because you're grandfathered or you're non-conforming, you still have to, moving forward, comply with all the rules and regulations that are in that residential district.
But
So that's
it's not
really
possible to change the age of the home.
No, but we're
be
talking
like-
about non-conforming use. So non-conforming
Okay.
use, it's a
Zoning?
residential area.
Oh, I
A
see.
very good example of that would be Chuck's Auto as
yeah,
an
I was gonna say, you
example.
I'm not gonna decide one day that I'm gonna build a shop here because it is residential, it's zoned as residential, not commercial. That's what you mean?
Yeah, and so right now, Chuck's Auto is technically non-conforming use based on
Gotcha.
the fact that it is a residential area, even though I think the council has taken, or part of the master plan included going ahead and identifying that one as a commercial enterprise, but it is also non-conforming. So he couldn't come in and extend his shop, build it bigger, add more services type things. Is that correct, Cassandra?
Well, he could, if he's non-conforming, then commercial or industrial, whatever that auto shop would be, he could do it if it was allowed in another commercial or in the same commercial district located somewhere else. He would still have to come to the city for the applicable permits that he needs to get that permission to add that on, but it doesn't mean he cannot expand. He just can only expand the way he would as if his property were zoned correctly the first time.
Okay.
So that's what
Uh.
that section 2 means. And then just going back to section 1, that last section, I guess like a catch-all. So I think later the non-conforming use, somebody has to apply within a certain amount of days, like 90 days or 6 months. So if they don't apply, they're not automatically non-conforming. So that would be, they're non-conforming, but they also have to meet that requirement of applying to the city for that non-conforming use.
Okay.
You're talking about this last
All right.
line here.
That last section, that would be something, and other applicable sections, well, they still have to meet those application requirements.
Okay,
And so when we get to that point, I don't know if notices should go out to those people who know that their property is not zoned properly, that they get those non-conforming use applications
got it.
in the city.
Okay.
Mickey,
All right.
can I see I can't see your notes. There's like this square here.
It's the participants. How about over here?
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. Yeah.
And if I make it a little smaller, can y'all still see that?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I can squint.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Non-conforming status, any use, platted lot or structure which does not conform with the regulations of the zoning district in which it is located shall be deemed a non-conforming use. So I guess this is kind of what you were just talking about, Ms. Ortiz.
Mhm.
Such use, platted lot or-
Did you just read section 3?
B,
B,
I think that's kind of what you were saying just now,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
so section B, paragraph 1A talks about, basically that is the grandfathering, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Prior existence or.
I,
Oh. I know the Latin for that can't be a priori.
I'm sorry, what?
I know the Latin for that can't be a priori, prior existence.
Hmm.
I'm so old, I can't remember anything.
Get a number and get in line.
Okay.
Okay, this section, this next one. Okay, number B.
Number B.
Whatever, item B.
Such use plotted lot or structure was in existence and lawfully operating as of the effective date of any amendment to this.
Well, that's a long sentence.
Yeah. But such amendment is placed in the district. Such. Huh? Okay, such use.
I always have to go back to the heading, non-conforming use and structures. Okay, here we go. So paragraph 1 is talking about properties that are currently identified as non-conforming. They shall be deemed a non-conforming use when these things are in place. So this is all about grandfathering, this whole section.
Such use. Section B, but by such amendment is placed in the district wherein such use, platted lot or structure is no longer permitted and has been irregular and continuous use. Seems a little redundant, but Such use was it in Lafayette at the time of annexation into the city is makes my head hurt, but I can't see anything wrong with it.
And this whole section here, this whole section B, really, I think, is clarifying the grandfather issue.
Okay.
So, and you're talking about, where did it come, annexation.
Mhm.
So at the time, if it was annexed into the city, and it was operating lawfully,
Mhm.
and then it's going to be, and has since been irregular and continuous use. So they would come in under a grandfather clause. And then from what I understand from grandfather clauses is as long as you were operating legally at the time this goes into place, then you're golden. If, however, well, and if at some point some of this changes and you've made no alterations or changes in use of the property, you are still grandfathered. It's when the law changes, as long as you were in compliance, when something changes or goes into place, you are still in compliance, you're still grandfathered in. I don't want to say in compliance, but you're still grandfathered in. Okay.
I don't know. Continuing on.
Moving right along. Okay, number one is obvious. If you quit using it, you lose your grandfather.
Yep.
So discontinuance is pretty obvious, guy packs up, puts the close sign on and leaves.
Mhm.
Okay, abandonment is some period after that. If nothing else happens, then the property is considered abandoned. I think that's correct. But they're almost the same, really.
But it says in subsection 3, is that this next section? Yeah, here we go.
So
6 months or longer.
if operation is stopped for 5 months and 29 days and then they start it up again, they're still good.
I saw that.
I like boundaries. I'm fine.
Does that mean that if somebody wants to sell their house, they can't sell it as a residential? They would have to sell it as commercial if it's been rezoned?
It
They
may
have to-
indeed.
Well,
Or
first of
they'd have
all,
to apply for a variance.
well, first of all, we're talking about existing non-conforming use properties.
It's actually a good question.
So,
Yeah, typically the sale or change of ownership of property does trigger the
So
clause.
what about Chuck's Auto? If we sell Chuck's Auto, or if, they sell Chuck's Auto, what happens at that? Like, just as an instant, like, or any business in here that's,
Well, somebody gets a house with a really nice garage.
yeah, that's what I figured. It would have to be, it would go back to being what it's supposed to be.
In the event that the commercial zoning doesn't happen, yeah, legally, that's the sequence of events, and it's one of the reasons I love Houston, because they don't even have zoning.
one of the reasons I refused to move to Houston because they had no zoning. And then I moved there and I actually loved it.
Tokyo has no zoning either.
Hmm.
If you own the land, you can build whatever you want on it. It's yours. Of course, the land is so valuable that, nobody but mega corporations owns any. So, but
So
right
just-
downtown next to the Sony Tower, there's a little half-acre lot with a house on it.
So I'm looking at the last sentence of section 3 there. Any non-conforming use which does not involve a permanent type of structure or operation and which is moved from the premises shall be considered to have been abandoned. And are we talking about the structure being removed or the function, the business, the whatever being removed or being moved?
Hmm?
Those
Any
were-
non-conforming use.
Structure or operation which is moved from the premises.
It says on there that it does not involve a permanent type of structure. You know, somebody has a TP set up on a lot out there and they're selling dope and they decide to move, you know, the TP is abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'm reading it.
But I'm reading it that they moved the TP.
So
That's
any
fine.
non-conforming use which does not involve a permanent type of structure or operation in which is moved from the premises shall be considered to have been abandoned. Okay, makes sense.
Well, if they move their business and leave the building, it's abandoned. And, you know, that's the way I'm reading this.
Right.
Okay.
But a permanent type of structure or operation which is moved. So the sequence of the wording can be read two ways. But I'm with you. If you read it linearly, it's correct. Makes my head hurt though.
Yeah, that's a lot. No non-conforming.
Next time we're passing out Advil ahead of the meeting.
I'm telling you.
I'd
Okay.
rather have Jack Daniels.
Okay,
Jack Daniels, if you please.
goodie
Non-conforming
packages will
use.
be delivered. Okay.
So,
So section 4 here goes back to what we were talking about up here. In this section. So we probably want to relate that discussion on this item to section 7 as part of discussion with the consultant.
Yeah.
Not all of that, just this. Okay.
so I think number 5 addresses you, Melissa.
My little example.
Yeah.
Okay, conforming single-family residential uses on platted lots, which were approved prior to the effective date of this ordinance, which may now be non-conforming due to stricter standards, shall be deemed in conformance with this ordinance as long as the use of the lot is allowed in the respective district. Only the lot size, depth, setbacks, and width shall be allowed to be less than the regulations prescribed in the zoning district in which it is located. All the regulations in this ordinance shall be met or lodged.
Maybe not.
Yeah, so that's basically telling me that I can't do, right? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
If you struck that last two, if you struck those last two sentences, it'd be perfect.
But remember, we're still talking about existing non-conforming use.
Right, so
But wouldn't that be like my example from earlier?
So you have a
So, you know-
conforming single-family residential that was used and approved prior to the effective date and now may be non-conforming due to stricter standards.
Which is like the ordinance in place right now.
Hold on, I gotta go kick a cat. Yep. Come on, you little. I'm sorry.
As long as the use of the lot is allowed.
So it may be because there are so many manufactured homes that may, or in mobile homes that may be non-conforming. I'm seeing this as saying they are not non-conforming because of the ordinance in place now. So there may need to be some exception or some provision that directly talks about manufactured homes.
I'd take a wild guess and say
Or
probably
mobile.
70% of the homes in Sandy Oaks would be considered non-conforming by today's standards.
I'm pretty sure it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, there
I'm
would
just
be, yeah.
taking a wild stab based on, my driving around. There's a lot of stick homes.
Yes,
So
there's a lot, but
This section right here where it says only the lot size, the depth, the setbacks, and the width shall be allowed to be less than the regulations prescribed in the zoning district in which it is located.
I don't even like that. I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, that's odd. That why?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering is why would we do that?
That. That's the stuff that everybody should be conforming to. The depth, setbacks, and I mean, I don't know about the width and all that. But like at least the lot size, how the trailer's set or how the house is set, because you can't put a house like they're building a shed and there's a concrete foundation on the property line, like that sort of thing. I get, like, you can't do that, but
One thing that
want to
comes
add
to
onto my house, I should be able to.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that comes to mind specific to this sentence are the properties along Priest Road that were identified in the master plan as being available for commercial use, where the first 200 feet of the property, I think it's the first 200 feet or 100 feet, 200 feet, can be designated for commercial use. And the remainder of that lot could be utilized for residential. So you could have without having to have it replatted,
Yeah,
they could
You have
utilize the property in that way.
that kind of makes sense with that right there. That I can see that having something to do with that. But I don't know about that whole little section right there. We should probably really
Right. You want
truly,
to tag it for the,
yeah.
okay, and let me see how, oh, here we go. Okay. Okay. So any existing vacant lot platted prior to the effective date of the ordinance, which was legally conforming, shall be deemed a conforming lot.
I see that.
That makes perfect sense. Okay.
okay, section D, you can't go back. You can never go home.
I mean, I see that. That makes sense. Well,
When a non-conforming use, which would be an action, I guess, or say,
are we talking business like we were earlier as well?
well, it's pretty broad. It could be, anything from drug dealing to, doing mechanic work in your yard.
Mhm.
So conforming use is located in a non-conforming structure. The use may be changed to another conforming use by the process outlined in section 5.
So when we're talking about conforming use, this is in relation to our master plan. Is that correct, Ms. Ortiz?
So
Yeah. Well, what do you mean by in relation to the master plan? The master plan?
Well,
my question is, what is a conforming use?
Where is it? Is it this document that is defining conforming and non-conforming, or is this in conjunction with the properties as they were identified on our master plan?
Oh, okay. It'll be both. It'll be conforming to the master plan, because this ordinance overall should be conforming to the master plan.
Okay.
If it's not, you can make changes to the master plan and the ordinance itself, so that way they're both conforming either way.
Okay.
So,
Okay, go
so
ahead.
when a conforming use is located in a non-conforming structure, okay, so I put my sleeping bag in an outhouse.
Good for you.
I don't know what a conforming use is.
Well, conforming use would be, according to the master plan, we have designated certain properties for certain types of use, residential, light commercial. And
So
so
somebody's living on a commercial lot. Is that a non-conforming use then?
I'm reading this to mean a conforming use. I have set up and am living in Chuck's garage, which is a non-conforming structure. You know,
But the use can be
Uh,
changed to another conforming use by the process outlined. I'm trying to wrap my head around how you change one conforming use to another conforming use.
well, we're talking about the use in a structure.
Right. Well,
So
okay.
let's, I know we have a property that has not been addressed within the master plan or the planning and zoning. And it's up there on the Mathis, just between Silver Chalice and the Dollar General on the right-hand side. It is a residential structure that is being used for an insurance company.
oh,
So
yeah,
technically it is a non-conforming
Non-conforming.
use of a conforming structure.
gotcha. That makes sense.
Okay. But that's exactly opposite of what there is.
Well, it says when a conforming use is located in a non-conforming structure. So,
Okay.
But that's opposite.
no, but it gives you an idea. So if you
Okay.
you couldn't have the shops at Sandy Oaks decide to turn that into a multi-family.
condo?
A hotel or, yeah, a condo.
Exactly.
Got, yeah, it's just opposite. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay,
And that reference to section 5 is supposed to be section E.
this
Okay.
right here.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so this section E here seems to relate back to the other section 5, I think it was above, where we were talking about expansion of,
Mhm.
of properties. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to go that far. Oops. There we go. Okay. So expansion is allowed in accordance with the following.
What in the world?
Say what?
So it's just, it's confusing. Because we were saying it's not allowed, but now it is allowed.
Well, it in certain circumstances. So the paragraph E is identifying expansion of non-conforming use of a structure is allowed in accordance with the following. So non-conforming use located within a building may be extended throughout the existing building. So as long as there's no structural altercation.
So you can't take out like a
Mhm.
load bearing.
No structural alteration may be made on or in the building except those required by law to preserve and maintain such building in a safe and structurally sound condition.
So it's almost like the example you gave earlier about the building that you work in.
Right, yeah. And that, I don't know where we go with codes. I know that's probably part of the district conversation and identifying where we would be able to have those different types of buildings. And then the codes, building codes would apply at that time. or our own code
Yeah.
for what we would allow.
So B is basically telling me that I can't do what I was wanting to do earlier in my little example, is how I read it. Am I right?
So if it's currently being used as a multifamily unit, you cannot increase it for more multifamilies in the same structure.
But it can also be said that she couldn't divide a room into 2 rooms
Yeah, or that I can't
or
do an
can't add on
addition.
another room.
Yeah, that's exactly how I read it. I'm not looking at a lot of this as commercial, and I don't know if I'm incorrect doing that. I'm looking at a lot of this as residential. That's what 99% of our,
Right.
you know,
But remember, this applies to both residential and commercial.
That's interesting.
So
This
it
can be
says here that in item A, no structural alteration except if provided in subsection 5 below may be made on or in the building except those required by law to preserve and maintain such building in a safe and structurally sound condition. Number 5 says building or structures which do not conform to the area regulations or development standards in this ordinance, but where the users are deemed conforming shall not increase the gross floor plan area by more than 10%.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know about any of that.
Okay.
So if it's a 1,000 square foot home, you could add 100 square feet to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not a really big room.
no.
Oh, you know what?
Hey,
And
I've
if this
seen
were New
some
York
that
or
have.
California, you know, the inspector would be out there with his micrometer.
Exactly.
So maybe we should put all of that on hold too, because that's a little too, I think, restrictive for my area. That's my personal opinion.
Okay,
I
so
don't
you
know if
want
I'm allowed to give them that or give that.
this right here, this whole section?
Yeah.
There's,
I mean,
there's
what do you
got to be
guys
a
think?
happy
Oh, wait.
medium. There's got to
No,
be a
we were-
happy medium
No,
somewhere.
E, it would
This.
be E. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, other commissioners, anybody?
I mean, suppose you have it's a really nice older mobile home and you want to add a carport. According to this ordinance as written, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe that is the distinction that needs to be made, living space versus other, porches and other items.
Well, when they bought that land and they put their house on it, there was an expectation that they would be able to use it as they see fit from
Yeah.
that time onward.
Yeah.
That's the principle in prior rescission or whatever you want to call it. So to retroactively go back and take away that right, it constitutes a taking. Okay.
Yeah.
And unless there's a compelling reason for such taking, they're generally frowned upon. So I'm thinking there's got to be a better way to approach that because, somebody has a nice older mobile home and say they want to improve it a little bit, spruce it up, add a carport, put new siding on it, make it look nice. They shouldn't
Or even add another bedroom to it. I mean,
exactly.
Or a whole other section to it. I should be able to do that.
Well, but remember, we're talking about non-conforming uses and buildings.
Well,
Most of our properties are residential. They
they're
are therefore conforming.
Except when they're too old, right?
except when-
The only time, and the only time that age comes into play is if you are replacing that building.
Well,
Or-
and
or
that should be
in
made,
this case, or in this case, altering.
that should be made crystal clear in the ordinance then.
Yeah.
And then that solves the whole problem.
Well, so the ordinance is written pertaining to the mobile homes, talks about, as long, you can have a 50-year-old mobile home that you're still living in, and the ordinance does not apply to you until such time as either the property has to be condemned because it's not livable,
Mm-hmm.
or you want to upgrade and put a newer unit.
Yes.
Then that kicks in, but you can stay there forever. We're
So
not.
you can do repairs, you can build a porch,
Sure.
you can build a carport, you can
Sure.
put in a driveway, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
Well,
but according
but
to this, you can't.
No, no, no.
And so-
It says for non-conforming use. If it's a residential property and that's conforming. If it's in a residential district and it's
Yeah,
been
but-
designated.
But if you go up a little, remember where we were earlier, where I said we should probably hold off on a lot of this, and even just a few up, if you alter it, or if you expand it, or if you, I can't remember, extend it, I think was the other word,
Yeah, it says
then
expanded.
it transfers to non-conforming.
No, no, no. It has to do with if it's designated non-conforming and you want to make changes, expand it, you can't do that if it's non-conforming. But again, if you are in a residential property, in a residentially designated on the master plan, you are conforming. Just because it's old and not aesthetically pleasing none of this kicks in until such time as you want to pull that unit out and put another one in. Then you're still conforming to the use of the property and the intended use of that property.
Gotcha. So you're saying it's all just based off of zoning.
Existing non-conforming. That's
zoning?
what we're talking about. Yeah. Yes.
Is that, Ms. Ortiz, just so you can, and that's correct, right? What we just said?
Yeah, I would agree with what the mayor said. But at the end of the day, this section particularly is just all a policy. It's all policy, nothing legal that needs to be in there. But yeah, it would just apply. I think it sounds like a lot of I don't know if there'd be a lot of issues with non-conforming uses right now, since a lot of the area is residential already.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it, because that's the only way, like any of us, any of the commissioners
Sure.
are going to be able to make a sound judgment or recommendation or decision on any of it. So I just want to make sure. So once I get it, I'm hoping that anything that I am not getting, everybody else gets, and just kind of talking through it. So
So,
that makes sense.
just to be clear, 40 years ago when this subdivision was created, I brought my little 1-bedroom mobile home, which conformed at that time, and I'm still living there. Okay. In
Mhm.
other words, I'm conforming until such time as what?
You move it off or
Until you
replace it.
replace that building.
Okay. Then I'm happy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we want you happy, Joe.
No,
It doesn't really matter whether I'm happy or not. I just want to have a clear picture in my mind of,
Yeah.
where the
No, and
line is.
absolutely. And just based on how we're struggling with this, trying to explain this to the public can be equally challenging. So
Yes.
it is important that we have a really good understanding, and what we're doing here, I think, is important. Going ahead and reviewing it, making the notations, asking the questions, and then when we bring the
Yeah.
consultant in, then they can help hopefully
I'm
clarify
from the
it.
less is more school, so.
Yeah,
Yes, but you also have to remember that there are those dastardly developers that are standing in the shadows waiting for some loophole that they can come in here and throw up some of their, pardon my language, crappy apartments or whatever, on a piece of land that they can get for next to nothing, that maybe doesn't have the restrictions. And that's what they're looking for, is something that they can come in and build on and sell and, disappear again into the shadows.
and that's true, Ken, and definitely one of the reasons why this is so important, because at this point in time, we
Well,
don't
if the
have this in
land is
place.
single family residential, nothing can change that except the zoning change. So, if the zoning is done right, that protects against the dastardly developers. Okay.
Well, I agree with that, but I'm just saying that, it's good to be thorough on this kind of stuff and not leave any loopholes or black holes or whatever you want to call them that could be exploited in to the benefit of a developer or someone else, and the city ends up being the loser.
Right.
I completely agree. Actually, with both of you, I understand what both of you, where you're both coming, because yeah, that's the last
Exactly.
thing we want is what Ken is saying.
You know, it is a fact that people would live in coffins if we'd let them.
They live in what?
Coffins. They have them in Tokyo. They're called capsule hotels. They're basically little 4x4x6 coffins that you can rent for the night.
Wow. I won't be
But-
going to Tokyo anytime soon.
Capsuru Hotaru. But then again, you know, in Tokyo, land is at a premium. You know, a 400 square foot apartment rents for about $4,000.
Wow.
Well, it is 8 o'clock. I think that's a good. It's a good.
So we want to maximize the owner's freedom while minimizing the impact of dastardly developers.
Yes, I completely agree with both of you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a notation on here that this is where we ended. Ooh, where did it go?
We started at, I think 2 going up.
What is today?
Today's
18.
the 18th.
Yeah.
Discussion and I don't know, can we move to agenda 5 now?
Sure.
Okay, right, I can. I'm good to
Yes.
go. Okay, discussion and possible action on scheduling the next meetings and or public hearings of the commission. Would you guys like to do this every 2 weeks?
That's up to you.
I
I
think-
can't. It's up to you.
You're in the driver's seat, Melissa. You're the one that, you know, you and Mickey tell us when you want us to meet and we'll meet.
Well, I would like you guys to give me some input every 2 weeks. I mean, that way we can get through this because, you know, it's been what, almost 2 months, 2 meetings.
I think we could go every 2 weeks on a temporary basis until we get caught up. Then it should,
Well,
you know,
So we
or
have
what's the normal? The normal schedule is once a month, right?
once a month. So here's the situation, and I'll let Ms. Ortiz kind of expand on that. But right now we have an ordinance in place relative to the P and Z Commission that states they will meet once a month on the third Thursday of each month.
No, but
what
she can
that-
call a
what that-
special meeting.
Well, and that can be done, but it does change the voting from a simple majority to, what do they call it, Cassandra?
Actually, are you talking about the quorum? Because that
The
only
quorum.
applies to council, actually. The zoning commission, according to the ordinance, is always 3, no matter when the meetings are.
Oh, it's always
So-
3 regardless.
Oh,
Yes.
So
a
even if a
meeting-
special meeting's called, 3 is still all it's needed.
Correct. And I think the ordinance kind of says at least once a month or at the call of the chair, and that 3 would apply to, so there's really no special meeting. It just may be outside the set time.
Okay,
So it's a little different with the planning and zoning commission.
okay, perfect.
Awesome.
so
So
what
what
about,
I was gonna say here is we have April 9th as our deadline for submission for the consultant.
Mhm.
And my thought was, by the
Wow.
15th, we would make that decision on, so your regular meeting on the 15th, we could have that on the agenda to select the consultant.
okay,
But if you want to have a meeting between now and then to continue to work through this, certainly feel free to do that. Just don't do it on, I mean,
Thursday of
well,
the,
you can do it on
City Council.
Thursday, but it would have to be the 25th, which is next week, or the 1st, which is April 1st, because April 8th is the next city council meeting.
There's not a meeting the 25th next week.
I don't have a problem
Yeah,
with that.
sorry. Can't do it
I would
next
prefer
week.
to do over is next week.
But it doesn't have to be on a Thursday, does it,
Okay.
Cassandra? They could call it on any other day.
No, it can be any other day
Yeah,
and time, really. So
yeah.
I,
So if you wanted to do it on a Saturday or another evening or however you wanted to do it.
so I say on the 1st, that's my suggestion, on the 1st.
April 1st?
And
Always
then,
you
wanted to
trying-
have a
who you
meeting on
trying to
April
kid?
1st.
so April 1st, and then we resume on the 15th. I would do it every 2 weeks. So we add the 1st, and it would be the 15th, the 29th. Let's see, the 13th and the 27th.
So I'm
and so
gonna
on.
send out these notes here to everybody that was on the call.
Thank
So
you.
you'll
Okay.
have it, and then I have saved it, and we'll pick it up next time.
Okay, so can we vote to do that, Cassandra?
Yes, you would need a motion to vote to either set the specific date or the first Thursday now, however you want to
So I
schedule.
guess the 1st and 3rd Thursday, is that how we would word it?
You don't need the third Thursday because I think that's already in place. So just the first.
Gotcha.
Right.
So- Okay, so this is the part where I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Can I get a motion to,
I move that we have the
Okay.
extra meeting as described by our city attorney.
can I get a second? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We unanimously pass, I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
The motion is passed by
The mo-
unanimous.
The motion is passed
Yeah.
unanimously.
Yes. The motion carries with a unanimous vote, or however you want to say it.
Okay,
But yes, it's unanimous.
okay,
We're
so
We're magnanimous.
We're doing it.
April 1st. 2021, okay.
So I do have a question for everybody. I'm gonna send these notes to your commission email.
That's fine.
Is that
I've got-
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I haven't seen anything in there for like a month.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Mickey, can you set up a reoccurring reminder on our calendar, or can we not do that like last time?
We can do that, and I think Catherine had to do it because I don't have access to that, but I can send her a message and ask her to do that.
Is this on the dryer?
Or-
And then
Yes,
also,
sir.
I just set up a Nixle group
The towels that are.
specific to this planning and zoning.
Okay,
So I'm gonna send a test message that was for this meeting, just so you guys can see it. And then if there's anything you want to change in how that message comes out, just let me know.
okay, sounds good. Okay. We adjourn at 8:08,
Time,
8:08.
okay, hold on, let me get over here and let me stop the recording.